Now, would you like some? Now great grief came over Glaucus. It came over Glaucus when he heard Sarpedon's dying words, and as much as his heart was stirred up, he was not able to do anything about it. He was so worn out by the wound that he had gotten. Do you remember when Teucer shot him with an arrow as he was jumping over the wall, the high wall of the Achaeans, trying to defend his buddies? And so now he stood and he prayed to the Lord, Phoebus Apollo. Sorry. Oh, here, you can keep these. Thank you. And he said, "Hear me, Phoebus Apollo, you who are in both the fat land of Lycia and also here in Troy. I know that you can hear a man in trouble anywhere, and I am now in trouble. I've got this savage wound, and the pains are just going all up and down my arms. Now the blood won't dry up. Now I can't hold a spear. I can't try to fight against my enemies this way." And now Sarpedon is dead. Sarpedon, who is the best man, now Sarpedon is dead, and he is the son of Zeus, and Zeus will not even defend him. So come and heal this wound. Put all of the pain to sleep and give me power so that I can go all through the Lycians and stir them up to fight around Sarpedon, and then I myself can also fight. That's what he said. And Phoebus Apollo heard him. And right away, he healed his savage wound, and he took away the pains, and he made the blood stop. And he threw battle fury into his chest. And so now he went among the Lycian leaders, and he called out for all of them to then fight around the body of Sarpedon. And then he went around the Trojans, to Polydamas, who is the son of Panthous, and to brilliant Agenor, and to Aeneas, and to Hector with his shining helmet. And he stood next to Hector, and he said to him, Hector, now you have forgotten all about your allies, those who are dying so far from home for your sake. Now Sarpedon lies there, Sarpedon who always saved Lycia with his justice and with his strength. So come, friends, all of you, put shame into your chests. Now we cannot let the Myrmidons take Sarpedon's armor. We cannot let them mutilate his corpse, because they are so upset over how many Danaans we killed beside the hollow ships with our sharp spears. That's what he said, and a terrible grief took over all of the Trojans from the head down. It was unmanageable. It was unbearable. Because Sarpedon, even though he was a foreigner, Sarpedon, he was such a support for the city. He led so many men, and he was such an awesome fighter. So now all of the Trojans were dying to rush out against the Danaans, and it was Hector, shining Hector, who led them, pissed off over Sarpedon. And on the other side, it was the shaggy heart of Patroclus, who led the Argives. And first of all, he went and spoke to the two Ajaxes, who were always defending all of their men. And he said to them, Ajaxes, okay, look, defend your men just as you have been doing before, or now even better. because now Sarpedon is down, and he was the first man who came over the Achaean wall. And I think that we can go and steal his armor, and we can mutilate his body, and we might even get to kill one of his Danaan buddies who's trying to defend him. That's what he said, and now the Ajaxes more than ever were stirred up for defense. So now on both sides, the ranks of men were strengthened, the Trojans and the Lycians and the Myrmidons and the Achaeans. Now they threw themselves together over the body of Sarpedon, screaming terribly aloud, and there was such a clash that came from all of the men's armor. And now Zeus stretched out deadly night over the hateful battle, because he wanted there to be even more deadly work in battle over his dear son. So now, excuse me, can I sit here for a sec? Now it was the Trojans that pushed off the glancing-eyed Achaeans. Here, it's just going to be a second. And, you know, the guy who got it, he wasn't even the worst of the Myrmidons. This guy, Epigeius, and so he was the son of Agacles, and he actually ruled over this place called Budeon. It was well settled. That means there's like a lot of people there. It's a good-sized city, right? So he ruled there before until he killed one of his awesome cousins. So then he had to come as a suppliant to Peleus and to silver-footed Thetis, and they sent him with man-breaking Achilles to Ilion, the place with the really good baby horses, to fight against the Trojans. Thank you. And so now it was Hector that hit Epigeius as he was just grabbing hold of Sarpedon's body. Now Hector hit him with a rock in the head so that his whole head split in two inside the heavy helmet, and he fell down face first, and life-destroying death covered him. But Patroclus felt such a great grief now that his buddy had fallen. And so now he goes rushing against the front lines of the Lycians and the Trojans. He's like a hawk that scares off all of the crows and all of the starlings. Yeah, that's how you were rushing, Patroclus. I mean, you were just so pissed off that your buddy was dead. So now he gets Sthenelaus, and he is the son of Ithamenes. He throws another rock and gets him right through the neck, and it cuts all of the tendons. So now, Shining Hector and the Trojans, they back up. They back up, and the Achaeans push them. So how far did they back up? Well, let's say it's as far as a javelin is thrown by a guy who's really trying to throw a javelin, whether it's in an athletic competition or in the deadly battle of war. That's how far. Now, the Trojans backed up and the Achaeans pushed them, but it was Glaucus who is the leader of the shield-bearing Lycians ever since Sarpedon dies. Now he's the first to turn around, and he kills Bathycles. So Bathycles? Hi. Bathycles, he was the son of Chalcon, and he lived in Hellas, and he was actually famous among all of the Myrmidons for being rich and happy. And now, Glaucus stabbed him in the middle, right through as he turned, and he caught up with him, and Bathycles fell with a thud, and his armor clattered all around him, and there was a great grief that took over all of the Achaeans because this guy who had fallen, he was awesome. But the Trojans, they were delighted. They came and stood all around Bathycles in a big crowd. It's true. Next. The courage? What? But the Achaeans, they did not forget their courage. No. Even though the Trojans were so delighted, the Achaeans are like, I'm not forgetting my courage. My battle fury is still driving me on. That's right, and it was Meriones especially. Meriones. He comes running up, and he hits Laugonus. Laugonus, who is the son of Onetor. So Onetor or Laugonus, I'm not sure who the relative clause refers to. He was a priest on Mount Ida, and all of the people worshipped him like a god, which I think is a little weird for the priest. He hits him in the jaw, well, just below the jaw, by the ear, so that the life very quickly leaves his limbs, and the darkness, the hateful darkness, took him. But now Aeneas comes, and he is rushing with his bronze spear, and he really wants to hit Meriones. Meriones, who is going with his big steps under his shield. But Meriones, he's watching the whole time, straight over his shield, so that when Aeneas throws, Meriones is like, whoop, ducks down forward, and the spear fixes in the ground just behind him, so that the butt end of the spear is like, boing. I mean, mighty Ares had just robbed that spear of its battle fury. So it had left Aeneas' heavy hand in vain and stuck into the earth. And man, Aeneas was so pissed off. He was just like, oh, and he yells at Meriones, hey, Meriones, you know, you're a very fast dancer over there. But I would completely stop you if I hit you. And spear famous Meriones is like, Ajax, nope, Aeneas. Aeneas, you might be strong and awesome, I know you are, but you can't really expect to stop the battle fury of every single guy that comes up against you, right? I mean, you're gonna die too. Maybe I will hit you in the middle with my spear, as strong as you are, as much as you trust in your own hands, and then, well, then I'll have something to brag about. Because I'll send your soul down to Hades, which is famous for its baby horses. And now the strong son of Menoetius, Patroclus, is like, tells off Meriones. Meriones, look, you're awesome, but why the hell are you talking like this right now? Do you think that we're going to drive all of the Trojans away from this corpse with insults? Do you think that's going to work? I think the ground is going to cover him up first. So come on. We only end battles with hands. We end debates with words. Talk less and fight more. That's what he said, and Patroclus led the way, and Meriones, a man like a god, he followed. So now, maybe we should open the door because it's really hot. Or maybe I'm just running around. So now it was like when there are woodcutters. You might call them lumberjacks, but they're literally wood-cutting men, tree-cutting men, when they're up in the mountains. And all of a sudden, the sound that comes from them, you can hear it from so far away. That's now how the sound, this huge clamor, arose from the wide ways of the earth as the spears, the two-sided spears and the swords struck against the well-made shields, some made of bronze and some made of hide. And you know, even an observant man now wouldn't have been able to recognize Sarpedon. I mean, he was completely covered from head all the way to the tips of his toes in spears and in blood and in dust. And there was always a huge crowd around the corpse. Do you know that they were like flies? They were like flies swarming in the sheepfold in the springtime when they first pour milk into the buckets. When the very first time they put the milk in the buckets and the flies come, that's now how they were all around the corpse of Sarpedon. And Zeus never turned his shining eyes away from the body and the battle, because he was always thinking about the death of Patroclus. He was thinking about whether this was it, here, over godlike Sarpedon's body, that Patroclus should be cut down with the bronze by shining Hector, or if he should still make more war work for many men. And now, that's what seemed best to him, that he would give Achilles' strong sidekick Patroclus one more go to push back the Trojans and shining Hector back towards their city and kill many men. And so the first thing that he did was he put the opposite of courage into Hector. So now Hector jumped up on his chariot and started to run. And he ordered all of the other Trojans to run away now too, because he recognized how the scales of Zeus had changed. And now not even the Lycians would stand fast, because they saw their leader, their struck leader, and he was completely covered now in piled corpses, because there had been so many men that had died over his corpse as Zeus had stretched out the hateful battle. So now the Achaeans came and stripped the armor off of Sarpedon. And the strong son of Menoetius, Patroclus, he came and gave it to his buddies to take back to the hollow ships. But Zeus called out to cloud-gathering Apollo, and he said to him, "Dear Phoebus, now I want you to go down and take Sarpedon and clean all of that cloud-dark blood off of him. Now pull him out of the thrown arrows and the thrown spears and take him to the streams of a river and bathe him. Anoint him with ambrosia, dress him in ambrosial clothes, and find 2 fast carriers who can take him back to the fat land in wide Lycia. Give him to Death and to Sleep, the twin brothers, to carry him there. And there his brothers and all of his kin, they will give him a funeral and a tomb and a tombstone. That's the gift that we give to dead men." That's what Zeus said, and Phoebus Apollo did not listen to his dad. He went down from the peaks of Mount Ida into the hateful battle, and he pulled Sarpedon out from underneath the thrown spears and the thrown arrows. And he took him a ways away, and he bathed him in the streams of a river, and he anointed him with ambrosia, and he dressed him in ambrosial clothes, and he gave him to 2 swift carriers, to the twin brothers of Sleep and Death, to carry him back to the fat land of wide Lycia. But Patroclus, he just kept on urging Automedon, his awesome charioteer, and his horses to follow the Trojans and the Lycians. Such a dumbass. I mean, if he had just remembered what Achilles, the son of Peleus, had told him, then he would have avoided the spirit of Black Death. But you know the mind of Zeus, it's stronger than that of any man. And he can make the brave man afraid, and he can easily take the victory away from him. And he can do any of that when he turns his mind towards battle. And now he was compelling Patroclus towards battle. So Patroclus, why don't you tell me, who is the first and who is the last that you killed as the gods called you towards death? First it was Adrestus, and then Autonomous, and then it was Echeclus. Then it was Megas. Well, it was actually Megas' son, Pyramus, Epistor, Melanippus. Share the rest. Then it was Alassos and Mulios, and finally it was Polartes. All of these he took, and all of the horses, they ran. So now the sons of the Achaeans, they would have taken all of Troy, because Patroclus led them with his hands and he was running far out in front of with his spear. They would have taken all of high Troy except that Apollo stood on its high ramparts. So 3 times Patroclus came rushing at him, trying to attack the corner of the wall. That's probably the best place. I don't know. And 3 times Apollo pushed him back with his divine hand into his shining shield. And then the 4th time, Patroclus, he comes rushing, something like a demon. And now Apollo lets out a terrible shout and says, "Patroclus, back off! It is not your fate to sack the city of the noble Trojans. It's not even Achilles' fate, and he's much better than you." That's what he said, and Patroclus, he backed off. He backed off quite a bit, because he was trying to avoid the wrath of Phoebus Apollo. But Hector, he had just been standing fast, holding his horses literally next to the Scaean gates. I know. He was trying to decide whether or not he should drive them back into battle or whether he should have all of the Trojans be called back into the city. And as he was standing here trying to decide this, that's when Phoebus Apollo came and stood next to him. And Phoebus Apollo, he made himself look like this really young, vigorous man. Asios, who happened to be Hector's uncle, he was Hecabe's full brother. Yes, that's right. He was also Demas' son. He lived in Phrygia around the river Sangrios, which kind of sounds like sangria, so it sounds delicious. So now, looking like this guy, Phoebus Apollo spoke to Hector and was like, "So Hector, why did you stop fighting? You know, you shouldn't do that. If I was as much stronger than you as I am weaker than you, then you could totally take a break from the hateful battle. But now you should drive your fast whole-hoofed horses straight at Patroclus, and I think that you might kill him if Apollo gives you something to brag about." That's what Apollo said. And he jumped back into the war work of men. And Hector, he ordered Cebriones, who was his awesome charioteer, to strike the horses and drive them back into battle. And now Apollo jumps into the crowd, and he starts driving terrible confusion among the Argives and handing out kudos to the Trojans. But Cebriones and Hector, they're only ever driving the chariot straight at Patroclus. Hector, he lets all of the other Danaans go. He doesn't even try to kill them. And Patroclus on the other side, Patroclus, he jumps down from his chariot and his horses to the ground, and now he's got his spear in his left hand, and with his right hand he picks up a jagged piece of marble rock, and his hand can completely cover it. And he makes a throw where he really puts his weight behind it. And this is the kind of throw that no man can avoid for too long, and it is not in vain, because it hits Cebriones. Cebriones, who is Hector's awesome charioteer, and he's also Hector's half-brother because he's the bastard son of noble Priam. So Cebriones is holding the reins, and the sharp rock hits him right in the middle of the forehead. And the eyebrows, they can't stand up against this rock. The whole skull just caves in, and his eyeballs fall out. His eyeballs fall out to the ground so that they're in the dust at his feet. And then he falls. He falls like an acrobat or like a tumbler, head first out of the well-made chariot. And the life left his bones. And oh, Patroclus. Patroclus, you really wanted to make fun of him, didn't you? Now Patroclus, he comes running over and he says, "Oh, Papoy! Did you see how graceful this man was? I mean, he was like a diver. I mean, if we were all right now on a boat on the fishy sea, even in a storm, this man diving like this, he would fill all of our bellies with delicious oysters. I mean, that's how well he dove just off of his horses to the plain. Wow, I mean, did you know that they had this kind of divers in Troy? That's what Patroclus said, and now, like a lion, you sprung, Patroclus, you sprung towards the corpse of Cebriones like a lion who goes into the sheepfold even though he's already been hit in his chest and his own courage is going to kill him. That's now how you sprung, Patroclus, onto the hero Cebriones' corpse. And Hector is now on the other side, and he gets down from his chariot onto the ground. And so now these two, they come over the corpse of Cebriones. It's like they're wrangling lions who are up in the mountains, two lions that come together because they're both starving over the corpse of a dead deer. That's how these two masters of the war cry now fought over the corpse of Cebriones. Menoetius' strong son Patroclus and shining Hector. And they were just desperate to cut each other's flesh with the pitiless bronze. And now Hector grabs hold of the head, and he won't let go. And Patroclus, he's got the feet on the other side. So now the whole battle is just led from both sides all around the corpse of Cebriones. It was like when the east wind and the south wind, they come into conflict with one another up in the woods, in the deeps of the mountains, and all of the tall trees there, the oak and the ash and the tall cherry, all of them with their branches outstretched and tall, clatter together with the wind's force and scream as the branches break in an unholy sound. That's the kind of sound that came now as the Trojans and the Danaans clashed over the body of Cebriones, wanting to cut one another down, and not even one of them thought about deadly fear. And there were so many spears that fixed in the ground, sharp spears all around the body of Cebriones. And the arrows flew, jumping off their strings. And all of these rocks came raining down, clattering off the shields of men all around the corpse of Cebriones. But Cebriones, he just lie there in the whirlwind of dust, massive in his mass, and he had forgotten all about chariot driving. So as long as Helios was in the center of the sky, that's the sun, that's how long arrows flew from either side and men fell. But as Helios started to sink towards the evening, that's when you let the cows free. That's when now the Achaeans had a strength that was beyond fate. And so now the Achaeans came and took the body of Cebriones out from all of the thrown missiles, and they stripped his armor. And now Patroclus, he kept rushing against the Trojans, thinking so many bad thoughts against them. 3 times now, he rushed something like the fast war god Ares, screaming terribly, and 3 times he killed 9 men. That's 27. But on the 4th time, Patroclus, when you went rushing something like a demon, that was when the end of your life showed up. Phoebus Apollo came against him now in the confusion of battle. And Patroclus didn't notice because Apollo had dressed himself in a lot of air. And so Apollo came and stood just behind him, and with his divine downturned hand just slapped Patroclus across the wide shoulders right in the middle of the back and sent Patroclus's eyes spinning. And then he took the helmet off of his strong head and he threw it, rolling with a clang as it fell in the dust by the horse's hooves, and the horsehair plume of the helmet was now filthy with blood and with dust. It was never right before for that horsehair helmet to get dirty. It had always protected the head of divine Achilles. It had always graced his forehead. But now Zeus wanted to give it to Hector because death stood close to Hector too. And Patroclus's spear now shattered, splintered in his hand, even though it was strong and heavy and tipped with bronze. And now the son of Zeus, Apollo, came and just loosened his breastplate so it fell off to the ground, and his tasseled shield and the whole shield strap just fell off his shoulders. And now ate, which is delusion or ruin or something kind of madness, took hold of his wits, and all of his limbs went slack, and he stood there just dumbstruck. And that was when some Dardanian guy came and stabbed him. It was Euphorbus. I mean, look, Euphorbus, who was the son of Panthous, he was actually probably the best out of everyone his age in both horseback riding, in spear fighting, in running with his feet. You know, he had actually already killed 20 guys today. Just today, when he jumped down, from the first time he jumped down from his chariot. So this guy's on a roll, okay. So it's Euphorbus. He's the one who hit you, Patroclus. But he didn't kill you, because Euphorbus, after he stabbed him, just pulled the spear back out of his flesh, and he ran back into the crowd of his buddies, because Euphorbus, he couldn't even stand fast against Patroclus, not when he was even without armor, naked, standing there. And Patroclus, here he was, hit by the god, beaten down by a spear, and he's trying to make his way back into the crowd of his buddies, and he's trying to avoid death. But Hector sees him, and Hector sharply runs all the way through the front lines. And he comes close to Patroclus now as he sees Patroclus trying to run away wounded, and he stabs him. He stabs him right here. It's the lowest part of the soft part between the ribs and the hip, right over the hip. And he drives the bronze all the way through so that Patroclus falls with a thud. And now great grief takes over all of the Achaeans. Now it was like when a lion overwhelms a savage boar up in the mountains when they've both come together thinking big thoughts, about to fight over a spring that they both want to drink from. And the lion just overwhelms the gasping boar. That's now how shining Hector came and robbed Patroclus of his life with his spear. And then Hector made fun of him. Hey, Patroclus. So you were going to sack Troy, huh? You were going to sack Troy, and you were going to rob the Trojan women of their day of freedom and take them back to your country on your ships. But the chariot of my fast horses brought me here too fast for that. And I am the best of all of the Trojans with the spear, and I will defend all of the Trojans from their day of necessity. And you, the vultures are going to eat you. And then not even Achilles, as awesome as he is, can do anything about it. You know, I bet you that he said to you when he sent you out and stayed behind, he said, Patroclus, horse orderer, don't you come back to these hollow ships until you have cleaved man-slaughtering Hector's tunic bloody from around his chest. That's what he said to you. And you listened, you fool. That's what Hector said, and now even though Patroclus was so weak, he's answered, Hector, you're talking big now. That's only because Zeus and Apollo gave this victory to you so easily. They stripped me of my armor. If 20 such men as you had come against me, each one of them would have died underneath my spear. But it was powerful fate and the son of Leto, Apollo, that killed me. And of men, it was Euphorbus. You're just the third in line to kill me. But I'm going to tell you something. I want you to throw it into your thoughts. And you are not going to live long. But death and powerful fate, they already stand close to you when you will be beaten down at the hands of Achilles, the son of Peleus. That's what he said, and the end of death covered him. And his soul went flying from its limbs down to Hades, the whole way crying about its fate, having to leave behind youth and manliness. And Hector, even though Patroclus was already dead, Hector's like, Patroclus, why are you trying to tell me how I'm going to die? Who knows? Even I might strike down Achilles, even though he's the son of Thetis with her good hair. I might strike him down with my spear. I might take his life. That's what Hector said, and he pulled the spear out of Patroclus's body from the wound. He put his heel up on the body and pulled the spear straight out. And now with that spear, he went running after Automedon, the awesome charioteer, and the horses, and he really wanted to get them. But those fast ambrosial horses, they took Automedon far off to safety. Those horses, they were the shining gifts of the gods to Peleus. But Menelaus, warlike Menelaus, who was the son of Atreus, he saw Patroclus fall in the hateful battle, and so now he went with his big strides, gleaming in his bronze. Sorry, you're going to have to lift all of your stuff up. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now he came over Patroclus. He came over Patroclus like a mother cow. Like a mother cow comes over the only calf she's ever given birth to, wailing over it. That's now how Menelaus came over the body of Patroclus and to defend it. And he held his perfectly round shield out in front of him and his spear, and now he was ready. He was ready to kill anybody who came up against him. And Euphorbus also saw that Patroclus had fallen in the terrible battle, and he also cared quite a bit, probably in quite a different way. And so now he came running over and he challenged warlike Menelaus. God-sprung son of Atreus, Menelaus, you need to back off, because you should leave this corpse and you should give me all of his armor, because I'm going to take it. I have won it and get my glory from the Trojans. So now, I think you should leave before I kill you and take away your honey sweet life. So that's what Euphorbus said. And Menelaus was super upset. And he was like, Father Zeus, this is hyper lively. I mean, you don't need to brag like this. You know, there's not a leopard or a lion or a wild boar that has the greatest strength in their chest ever and exults in their strength. None of those beasts have the kind of battle fury that you sons of Panthous seem to think that you have. You know your brother, horse-breaking Hyperenor? He came up against me. It was a few weeks ago. He came up against me, and he made fun of me, and he called me the weakest spearman out of all of the Danaans. And I don't think that he's going to enjoy his youth any longer. I don't think that his fast feet brought him home to cheer up his wife and his parents, because he came up against me, and I stole his battle fury. So, I think that you should back off. I mean, before something bad happens to you. Because once something bad happens, even a fool will know it. That's what he said, but you know that Euphorbus just didn't listen? And Euphorbus was like, God-sprung, son of Atreus, Menelaus, you are going to pay. You are going to pay for killing my brother like this. You are going to pay for bragging like this. Oh my God, you have made my sister-in-law a widow in the, this is really hard to translate into English, but in the inner depth place of the newly minted bridal chamber. You have given such great grief to my parents, my dear parents, and I can be the end of all of that pain. I can bring cheer back again to his wife and to our parents, because I'm going to give them your head and your armor. I'm going to hand it right over to our dad Panthous and our good mother Phrontis. So this, between us, we're going to see what's what sooner than later, whether there's fear or whether there's courage. That's what he said. And he stabbed straight through Menelaus's perfectly round shield with his bronze spear. but the bronze didn't go through. It just bent back. The whole tip of it bent back against the strong shield. And Menelaus was the second to strike as he prayed to Father Zeus. And he hit right at the lowest point of the throat. And he used his heavy hands to drive the bronze spear straight through so that it went through the entire soft part of the neck. And then there was a hairdryer. So Euphorbus fell, and his armor clattered all around him. Do you know that he had these braids? He had these beautiful braids that were banded with silver and with gold, wasp-like. They were prettier than even the braids that the Graces have. Now they were completely drenched in blood. He lay there. It's like when there's a guy who plants an olive sapling up in a lonely place in the mountains, and he waters it enough every single day so that it flourishes, and the breath of the wind just lightly shakes its branches, and it bursts all over with white flowers, thriving. And then all of a sudden a squall comes and rips it right out of the ground and lays it out on the earth. That's now how Euphorbus, the son of Panthous, with his good ash spear, was laid out on the earth. And it was it was Menelaus who killed him and went to strip his body. And now, do you like some water? Now Menelaus, he was like, would anyone else like some water? There's no more cups. Oh no, we need cups. Would you like some water? Oh, thanks. Oh, too bad. So now Menelaus, he was like a lion that gets raised up in the mountains. Would anyone like some water here? Thank you. And he comes down and he picks out this lion, not Menelaus, the lion. We're still in the metaphor. He picks out the best cow out of a whole herd of cows, and the first thing he does is he breaks its neck. And then presumably he bites the whole head off, because the next thing that he does is gulp down all of the blood and the guts from the cow, which seems kind of interesting in terms of physics. And then, as much as they want to stop him, all of the men, the shepherds, and the dogs, well, what are they going to do? They're scared of him. That's now how the Trojans were all scared of Menelaus. And now Menelaus would have so easily just stripped all of his armor and gone running off with it. But it was Phoebus Apollo who wanted to honor Euphorbus. So now he came down next to Hector again, and now this time he made himself look like Mentes, who was the leader of the Ciconians. And he said to him, Hector, why are you running after these things that can never be caught? These horses cannot be caught. These are divine horses. They are a pain to any man who tries to tame them. They will only carry Achilles, and it's only because his mom is a goddess. So come on now. Now, over the corpse of Patroclus, Menelaus has killed the best of all of the Trojans, Euphorbus, and he has stopped his rushing courage. That's what he said. And Hector's black guts filled up with grief. And he went through the ranks of men looking everywhere, and he saw the one man stripping the armor, and he saw the other man lying there on the ground, and all of the blood still dripping from his wounds. So now he called out in a terrible cry to all of the Trojans, and he urged them on now. Now he looked like a flame, like the shining flame of Lord Hephaestus as he went screaming forward. Oh, so old. And Menelaus definitely saw Hector coming now. And he freaks out a little bit. I mean, he starts talking to himself. Oh, boy. So, if I leave behind the beautiful armor and Patroclus, who has died here for my honor, then every single one of the Danaans who sees me is going to resent me. But if I stay here, I think I'm going to be surrounded, many against one, because Hector, shining Hector, he's leading all of the Trojans here. Oh, why am I talking to myself like this? Okay, so whenever there is a man who, in front of a god, goes up against a man who is backed by a god, well, then nobody can resent him because a terrible pain, a wave of pain rolls over that guy. Basically, if you're going up against a guy with a god, you know. And he's like, so now none of the Danaans can resent me if I give way to Hector because everyone can see that Hector is fighting with a god. Not with a god, but with the support of a god. Prepositions are so hard. So I'm going to go now back through the Achaeans, and I'm going to find Telamonian and Ajax. Yeah, big Ajax. And then we're going to come back here. And then I think that we can rescue Patroclus and bring him back to Achilles, the son of Peleus, even if it's in front of a god or against a god or there's any god involved whatsoever. That is the best of bad options. So that's what Menelaus said. And he kind of backed up slowly. He backed up. But he was backing up like when there's a lion who has a great beard. I mean, it's probably a great mane, but it's the same word as great beard, so it's kind of funny to think of the bearded lion. And he's backing away from a sheepfold, even though he really doesn't want to, so he keeps turning back because it's completely against his will that he's leaving, probably because he wanted to eat one of the sheep. But, you know, the dogs and the men are coming after him with yelling and shouting. So that's exactly how Menelaus now left Patroclus behind. And he finally took a stand and turned when he reached the crowd of his buddies. And then Menelaus looked everywhere through the crowd until he found Telamonian Ajax. Telamonian Ajax, who is all the way on the left side of the battle. And he was urging all of his men to fight and keeping them going all the time because Apollo had thrown divine fear into all of them. And so now Menelaus came and stood next to Ajax and was like, hey, Ajax, oh, Pipon, okay, so let's go and get the dead Patroclus. Because I think that the two of us, remembering our battle lust, we can save him and give him to Achilles, the son of Peleus, even if he is naked, because I think Hector is stripping his armor right now. That's what he said. And he stirred up Ajax, and Ajax led through the ranks of men, and Menelaus, who is blonde, followed. But Hector was stripping the arms. He stripped the arms from the shoulder and from the head. I don't know how they got back on. And then he drags the corpse. Hector drags the corpse because now he wants to cut off the head away from the shoulders with the sharp bronze. Now Hector wants to give this body to the Trojan dogs. But Ajax comes running over. He's got a shield in front of him like a wall. And Hector just grabs the armor. And he goes over here and he gives it to his buddies to take back to Troy, which will be a great honor for him. And Ajax, he comes over Patroclus with his wide shield defending the body. Now he's like a lion. Yes, he's like a lion who takes his cubs up into the mountains and stands fast against a hunter, and he is exulting in his own strength, and he is glaring at the hunters with half-closed eyes. That's now how Ajax protected the body of Patroclus. Where did I go now?
Menelaus on the other side.
Oh, good. And Menelaus is, oh no, but what's the next beat? Menelaus is on the other side of him, just standing here too, helping defend Patroclus. But you know, his grief keeps getting greater. I'm not sure why, but I like it.
Glaucus.
Glaucus. And Glaucus, you remember him? The leader of the Lycians, the shield-bearing Lycians. Well, Glaucus now comes and tells off Hector. He's like, Hector, oh man, pretty boy, you are really lacking when it comes to fighting. You know, you were supposed to be so famous for being awesome, but really you're just awesome at running away. I think that now you're going to have to figure out some way that you're going to save the whole Trojan city on your own, because none of the Lycian men are going to keep fighting against the Danaans forever, endlessly around your city when they get no thanks at all. I mean, how are you ever going to save a worse man when you won't even save Sarpedon? Sarpedon, who lies there, he was your buddy. He was your guest friend. He was someone who was such a benefit to your whole city, to yourself while he was alive. And now you won't even defend him from the dogs. So, if all of the Lycians now will listen to me, we are going home. And all of high Troy can fall, I don't care. But if there's still some unshakable battle fury left in the chests of the Trojans, if there's still any of that courage, that kind of courage that always drives men to defend their fatherland against their enemies, well then let's go. Let's go. Now we can drag the body of Patroclus. And if we take it back into the city of Ilion, if we somehow get those corpse back into Priam's holy city, well then I think that the war-loving Argives, they'll give back Sarpedon. They'll give back his beautiful armor, and maybe they'll even bring Sarpedon himself into the city. Because that is how big of a deal the guy that Patroclus was the sidekick for is. Achilles, the son of Peleus, who is by far the best of all of the close fighters beside the Argive ships. That's what he said. And Hector glared at him from under his brows and said, Glaucus, what kind of thing is that to say to me? I mean, you're getting a little big for your armor over here. I always thought that he was the smartest guy in all of Lycia, but I really don't like the way that you're talking about me. I don't like what you're thinking now. You think I won't stand fast against Ajax? I don't shudder at battle or at the sound of horses' hooves. No. But sometimes, you know, the mind of Zeus is stronger than that of any man. He can make a brave man scared. He can easily take away the victory of any man when he turns towards battle. But come on, Pepon, come and stand next to me and watch me work. And then you'll see if I'm going to be a coward all day, like you say, or if maybe I can steal away the courage of one of the Danaans that is fighting, desperate to save the corpse of Patroclus. That's what he said. And right away, with a huge cry, he turned to all of the Trojans. Trojans, Lycians, Dardanian spear fighters, now be men and remember your furious courage. I'm going to go and put on armor. I'm going to go and put on the armor of Achilles, the son of Peleus, that I stole when I killed Patroclus and stripped his body. That's what Hector said. And now Hector goes running after his buddies who took the armor on their chariot. And because he's really fast with his feet, he catches them like that. And then he changes armor just a little bit away from where the battle is that brings so many tears. And then he gives those guys his armor to take back into the Trojan city. So that's how Hector now put on the divine armor of Achilles, the son of Peleus. that armor that the Uranian gods had given to Peleus, and then Peleus had given to his son Achilles. The old man Peleus gave it to his son Achilles, but you know, Achilles, he was never going to grow old in that armor. And Zeus is over here, and he's watching from high up. He's watching Hector put on this armor, and he just shakes his head. And he's like, oh my God, Hector. That's not my Zeus voice. That was just me being like, Hector, what are you doing? Hector, now there is no thought in your head of death or of fate, and now they stand so close to you. Now that you have put on Achilles' armor, this divine armor of Peleus, and you have killed his strong and gentle friend Patroclus, and you have stripped that armor from his shoulders and from his head beyond what was fated for you. So you will not make it out of this battle alive. And your wife Andromache will never receive Achilles' armor. And in compensation for this, now I am going to give you great strength, just for now. That's what Zeus said, and he nodded with his dark eyebrows, and right away he fitted the armor even closer around Hector's skin. And now he took mighty Ares, the whole war god, and threw him inside Hector. So that Ares filled out all of his limbs, filled out his chest, and all of his battle fury. So it was like that Hector went running around to all of the Lycians. Would you like some candy? Would you guys like some candy? He went to Mesthles, and he went to Glaucus, and he went to Medon, and he went to Thersilochus, and he went to Asteropios, and he went to Dacenor too, and Hippothos, and Phorkys, and Anomos, the bird seer, and Chromios. You share. And now, stirring up all of the leaders, he shouted out to the Trojans, the Lycians, everybody. He said, now, you tens of thousands, you tribes from the neighboring cities, look, I didn't call you here away from your cities because I need you, because I want you. But it's because I thought that you all had goodwill, that you all wanted to save the Trojan wives, to save our innocent children from the war-loving Argives. So now, that is why I have worn my people out with food and with gifts for you all, and I have made each one of you stronger. So let every one of you turn now towards battle, and let one die and let one be saved. That is the sweet whisper of war. And if there's any one of you now, any one of you who can grab away Patroclus's body, push back Ajax, well, then I will give him half the spoils, and I'll take the other half. And he can have as much glory as me. That's what he said. And now all of the Trojans, they were bristling, and they had their spears up as they went rushing against the Danaans, each man in his heart, hoping that he was going to be the one to grab Patroclus's body away from Ajax. The fools. So many of them were going to die when they went up against him. much for coming. I think this might be our biggest crowd ever. And I'm glad because it was certainly my favorite week so far in terms of the story. I want to thank Bar de Pain and our awesome bartender, Amit. I want to thank Anthony Pavoni and his first solo week, who still saved my ass so many times. I want to thank Sam Windholz on video. And please give it up for Sean Graney, who came up for the stage just to direct this week. I also want to give a special shout out to Andrew, who gave us a line on the mannequins. And please come back next week and find out what happens next. It's going to be Lucinda Davis who's going to be directing. Thank you, everybody.